Alright, thank you for joining me in this video while I give you a tutorial on how to change the oil on a 2005 Lexus RX330. It's the 3.3 liter V6 engine. I believe it's the same engine that's in the Highlander and I believe some models of Camry as well. So the process should pretty much be the same. The difficulty with this is the location of the oil filter. As you can see here, it is right under the exhaust manifold. Here is a heat shroud, and it's right under here. I have my hand on it right now. There's no way I could even get you a look at it with this camera. And that was the toughest part of this oil change the first time I had to do it. I could not find the oil filter. I knew where it should be, and I kept looking and looking and looking, and I couldn't find it. I had to dig deeper and look way up, and yeah, sure enough, it's hidden under here. So one of the keys with doing this oil change is you have to have the engine cold, because your hand is going to be up in there right next to the exhaust, and the oil filter is located directly under the exhaust manifold. So it itself gets super hot and hard to handle, so you're going to want to make sure your engine is cold. This engine had sat overnight. I started it up to get it up on the ramps, so it's a little warm, but it should be good enough to go. Now we have to go underneath to get started with this process. We have a couple panels we need to remove so we can get access. So here we are underneath. It's this panel here that has several of these 10mm and a couple of these little snap pins. We got to get all that out, and then we got to remove this panel here as well. This is where the drain plug's underneath this one. So I'll go ahead and get that removed, and then I'll show you the rest of the process. Alright, now I got the two panels removed from underneath the vehicle, which is the only way you can really access this oil change. The back panel here, I had mentioned there was the little window there for the drain plug. Well, you don't need to remove that if you're going to remove the whole panel. I feel like it gives you a lot more accessibility, and the first time it enabled me to really see where everything was by removing that whole back panel. And it's only 5-6 screws and two push pins, so it only takes a few minutes. And this front panel here, which is what covered this section right here, that's what's going to give you access to the oil filter. Without removing that, you're not even going to be able to see the oil filter. So now that we got the two panels removed, we can first start by getting our drain plug, which is right there, and that's pretty straightforward. Just remove that, let the oil drain. And now moving on to the oil filter. As you can see, there it is right there. So just like I said earlier, we have your exhaust tube running here, and your exhaust manifold is right up there, the silver shrouded portion, and the oil filter sits directly under it. And so you got dealing with heat issues. So like I said, you want to make sure that the engine is nice and cool, because you're going to get deep up in there. And I recommend you getting an oil filter wrench that fits the filter you're going to use, one of those cap style, because you can get this off easily. Tightening it is a bit difficult if you don't have that type of wrench. I typically use like a strap wrench to do my oil filters because it doesn't leave marks, but on this one it was difficult to get it up in there, get it on, and get the torque I needed. And another aspect of this oil change that's kind of a pain in the ass, not a big deal, but as you can see there, the oil filter is mounted fairly up high on the engine. So once you unscrewing that, the oil starts running absolutely everywhere. It kind of has this little cup right here. I don't know if it's designed to hold it and let it drain into one spot, but as you can see right under the filter, there's that little metal tab sticking out. The oil hits on that and runs every which way. When I did it, nothing pretty much went into that cup. It all ran around it and down into the back of the engine even. So there was a lot of cleanup involved with this oil change. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Other than trying to find the oil filter was the most difficult part I had with it, and making sure that you have a cold engine to start with. When I did it, it was a little too warm, and that filter retains a lot of heat, and it was hard to spin that off and hold it just long enough to get it down to the drain bucket. But other than that, those are the two main keys, is where this is and to make sure it's cold. And then be prepared, you're gonna have a mess once you start unscrewing that filter. That oil goes everywhere. Okay, well that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna drain it today because I've already done an oil change on this. Then after doing it, I realized I should have filmed this because it was a little atypical of an oil change for me. So I thought I'd go ahead and do this without changing the oil. It's still fresh and good in there. So I'll go ahead and just explain to you guys the process and where the oil filter itself is. I feel that save you a lot of time. And don't be intimidated by the panels. They're very simple. Just a little 10mm and you get everything off. Well, okay, that's it. That's an oil change on a 2005 Lexus RX330 3.3 liter V6. And that's the little culprit right there you need to find and remove. That's the toughest part of this whole thing. Alright, well I hope you found this video useful. Once again, thank you for watching. Please browse the channel and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks again.